We have Sylvia, Camarota, as well as Toby, Willis, who'll be joining us from Expedia. Oh, you're all set? Great. So Expedia is really going to share with us a lot of the work that they have been focused on with their hotel partners and collecting more accessible information. This is without any doubt something that is extremely important. I had a conversation yesterday about some of the challenges just in working with individual hotels, handling reservations, and the kind of information that we typically get from Expedia helps us all make much better decisions when it comes to our travel plans and our travel arrangements. I would also point out to you as we make way for both of our speakers to come forward is how incredible the execution of this conference has been around issues of accessibility. And I know when we spoke earlier, Jake wanted to put that as a real top priority, and I think he certainly has accomplished that in a number of different ways. And I think the dimensions of the community are a big part of what's important in how we go about making things accessible. So I know that we are going to do a presentation. I do have a clicker. I also have microphones. Oh, nope, you have microphones, so we don't have to worry about that. I have the clicker right here. So we have chair right here. And are you going to work from podium or chair?
I'll sit over here.
You'll sit over here as well? And your chair's right here.
All right. Sure thing.
Okay.
All right. Is my mic hot?
Your mic is hot, absolutely.
Can I lay this here?
Absolutely. I can help you with that.
Lovely.
Okay.
Well, it's really hard to follow the previous presentation. But I will try to, Sylvia and I will try to keep it interesting.
We will. Definitely want to keep it interesting and rather conversational here.
Yeah.
Actually, let me advance here.
Awesome.
For just quick introductions.
Sure.
My name is Sylvia Camarota. I am a commercial leader with lodging market management team, focusing mostly on our lodging partners, crafting partnerships, making sure they onboard on our sites and community of our marketplace in a great way, and encouraging them to be successful in our marketplace. So we'll talk a lot about that. In my sort of spare time, I also founded about 2 years ago a nonprofit called Women in Travel Thrive. So hopefully I'll have a chance to tell you a little bit more about it. But Toby?
Yeah, I'm Toby Willis. Thanks for having us today. I'm looking after inclusive travel for Expedia Group. I've been in this role since September officially. I've been working at Expedia for about 8 years on accessibility, and fortunately my role has been expanded to inclusive travel, which is inclusive of not just accessibility, but also helping all under-traveled and marginalized groups like Black, Latinx, LGBTQ, and so on and so forth. We're also looking at how we can provide better information around environmental sustainability and some human rights initiatives and things that Expedia is doing to try to reduce human trafficking and things that people may be misusing our platform for. But today we're going to talk about environmental sustainability very briefly, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, accessible travel. So can we go to the next slide?
Absolutely.
All right, so let's start with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and just briefly talk a little bit about some things that Expedia is doing in this space in general. And I think...
Yeah, I can kick it off a little bit here. So the one area that we've committed to is Expedia Group is part of a larger organization called CEO Action Pledge. Some of you may be familiar with it. It is essentially a community of different businesses out there, not necessarily all in the travel vertical, all committed to do the right thing. Do the right thing in creating an inclusive environment for their workers, for their constituents,
And I think they have a very committed, specific set of actions in this particular framework. It is a great organization, and a few years ago, Expedia was part of a travel subgroup that we co-founded with some of the other companies that wanted to make it a little bit more specific to travel vertical, and we are continuing that conversation now. So we'll talk to you a little bit about some of the actions you can take on that front. But Toby, I know we're also members of Disability Inclusion Works program, correct?
That's right. Yeah, we joined Disability In a few years ago, and then I think maybe 2 years ago we started participating in the Inclusion Works program with the Disability In sponsors. And I think one of the things I'm most proud of at Expedia is the commitment that we've made to employees in giving us a space to feel like we belong and to a platform where our voices can be heard. So we have now 8 ERGs. We lovingly call them IBGs, Inclusion Business Groups, but that's an ERG or a BRG, depending on which language you prefer. But I started the Ability Inclusion Movement, which is obviously an IBG or an ERG that's dedicated to giving voice to the disabled employee. We do a lot of outreach as well with the community, so it's not just the employee experience, but it's also what we're doing in the community as well. Some of the other IBGs ERGs, I'll use the industry term. Some of the other ERGs are Pride, that represents the LGBTQ community. We have BEAM, the Black Expedia Allied Movement. We have IDEA, which is the indigenous, represents the indigenous populations. We have WELL, which is Women at Expedia Leading and Learning. I'm going to probably leave some out because I can't remember all of them, but there's...
And speaking of WELL, which I was obviously proud to be part of, looking at the women and some of the gender gaps that we're still seeing in a lot of the verticals and, particularly in some of the spaces towards the executive communities. I think for me, where the opportunity came in founding the 501c3 nonprofit Women in Travel Thrive, is to actually make what really made this inclusive business group work inside house extend forward to connect women across the different organizations that also wanted to create a network and also wanted to find one another through a very specific set of programs, including one thing we're calling the Thrive Match, where we actually match up the different women to be able to connect with one another and allies. So it is a community that, as well as there's no barriers to join, so it doesn't have any type of memberships associated with it. But this is just one way of being empowered within Expedia Group to take it further, right? Not just within the organization, but outside of it as well.
Right.
Last thing here, I think, is just that we are publishing our annual inclusion and diversity report, so we'll share a little bit of that link at the end as well.
That's right. You can find that on expediagroup.com, our corporate site. You can read our report, our 2021 report. So just holding ourselves accountable to these commitments that we're making. And we're not perfect. We're not there yet, but we are on a journey together with you all and with everyone who uses Expedia. So I'm very proud of the fact that we are publishing not only our accomplishments, but our goals and strategy for achieving those goals. You want to move on?
Yeah, moving on to sustainability. So
this is a big space that I know everyone's interested in. We're all we're all a crew on the planet Earth, and we have to work together to create a sustainability plan where travel can be more sustainable for the planet. And travel does have a carbon footprint, so Expedia is looking at ways we can help offset that, not only our corporate footprint, but helping travelers put their money where their values are, and that's helping understand what our partners are doing in this space, such that you can shop in a way that is more aligned with your values.
Yeah, and we continue to invest in this space, right? So there's a couple of very new partnerships that we started in 2022, the Travelist Coalition and the Glasgow Declaration for Climate Action in Tourism, and I think that's just getting us started. I know we are also creating a lot of, bringing a lot of internal talent that's focused on this and social impact, really.
Right.
So, but moving on, because I think we want to spend the majority of our time and discussion in the accessibility area.
Right.
I know I am very excited to be able to share because as my team, an extension of me, really works with a lot of the lodging partners this year and in past really several years now, but this year with a lot more commitment and intention, we launched a lot of enhancement to our partner and traveler tools. So we have back-end systems that are obviously powering a lot of our lodging partners, so those of you that are not in that space, to kind of understand. And in order to collect data from these thousands and thousands of lodging properties, we needed to find easy and scalable way to do so. So one thing we did, and we're continuing to do, because as Toby said, this is not a checklist, this is not one and done, because we're going to continue to enhance our listings, is that we have our partner marketing teams that are creating through a campaign, through scalable ways of basically creating and pulling this content in from all of our lodging partners. So we have a lot more information, including all the different accessibility options that partners can now leverage. So this is one way of us committing to this. We actually have now an expanded menu of accessibility options for partners to leverage up to 125 unique attributes. And Toby, I know you wanted to mention a couple of them.
Yeah, I think it's really important, and everyone in the room probably could speak to this, but we need accurate and sufficient information such that we can make informed choices. So our goal here is to provide our platform so that partners can share very granular information about their properties and rooms. So we have these 125 unique attributes that are everything from door width to bed height. I mean, do you have grab bars? How high off the floor are they? Is there a step-free entrance? A step-free pathway, to the entrance, to the elevator, to the room, so on and so forth. So we realize that there's gaps in some of these areas, but we have, as Sylvia said, there's efforts underway to close those gaps. But I think having the platform built in a way where our supply partners can provide those level of detail.
We like I said, I mean, the consultations are really important that we are having with our lodging partners, and we actually just released our lodging accessibility guide to support our partners. We'll share with you a link for that in just a second. But one thing I wanted to just close off is we just released a really big pivot, and if you go on our websites, you can read a lot about it, how we are kind of reimagining our marketplace and making it a lot more traveler-centric. And where I'm going with this, as you know, when travelers with disabilities travel, they do spend more. But if they have a terrible experience, they're not going to trust. We need to be a platform, and we need to be a marketplace that travelers can trust, that can come back to it. And as such, what we're doing now, and this is that big pivot, is we're truly rewarding properties and lodging partners that are doing the right things, that are having the good reviews, that are going out of the way, maybe for a travel with disability, like Toby. And we were just talking about how a small little gesture, like having a dog bowl in the room, right, could go a long way, and just really creating unique and great experiences. And I will say those type of lodging partners will be extremely successful on our site. The converse is also going to be true, and those type of partners that are not displaying this type of effort are not going to have a really great time on our marketplace, and will lose visibility in our marketplace. So I wanted to share that here.
Right.
So inclusive reviews are incredibly important. So just for the sake of time, I think I'm going to move to the final slide on actions. Or did you want to add anything else, Toby?
I want to leave plenty of room for questions here, but I will say that to your point, Sylvia, we just launched last month at our Explore conference in Las Vegas this supply score, we're calling it, which is comprised of not only a content completion score, but also an experience score. So like you said, if I have a bad experience with my guide dog in a hotel, which is not uncommon, unfortunately, I can leave a review and give that feedback, and then that will influence the search ranking that partner has on our site.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is actually the slide we want to leave you with, because it has several, opportunities for you to take a look at. Certainly encourage, if you're working with lodging partners or really any travel partners for the matter of fact, sharing the granular accessibility details is really the critical key. We can't make them always do it, but we're doing our best. And like I said, we now have tools to engage our lodging partners with a little bit of this marketplace push and pull, right? Which is what Toby was referencing. So the accurate information is critical. We want to make sure that our lodging partners really look at it from the granular individual room level, so that the travelers that book with them can really feel confident. And it's all about the trust in that marketplace, and that's critical. And we're not perfect. We are working on it, but we are on this journey to get better. And we also want all of your feedback on what else is missing. So thank you for those of you that even come up to me today and said, here's some things you can do better, or maybe this is an attribute that we're missing from our marketplace. We already mentioned the CEO Action Pledge, so certainly something you all can take advantage, but I would invite all of you that are in the travel subgroup. We are having a quarterly calls, and we're having a really good conversations, and we're learning from one another. I know, Ron, you spoke in one of our events, so thank you for that. And we have a link here to the Expedia IND group report, so you can read about all the different things Expedia Group is doing. But lastly, the below QR code, you can just scan it right now, and that's the Lodging Accessibility Guide. It's the first one of its kind. Again, if you feel like there's something there that's missing and we can enhance it, we can do another version of that. But yeah, we're really excited to be here today and also continue to promote this conversation, not just here, but in other conferences and other forums that we have with partners across the North America and elsewhere. Toby, anything else to close with?
Yeah, I'm just really proud of, like you said, I'm really proud of the Lodging Accessibility Guide. Actually, your team worked on this along with my team, so it was really a very collaborative effort. And it talks not only about how to be accessible, but why it's important to do so, because we realize there's a huge education gap. What's wrong, baby? What's wrong?
Yeah, a lot of it is just creating awareness and education. So thank you for having us, and we're open for questions.
Open for questions, for sure.
Thanks.
Okay, so thank you. So I just